If we are believers, it is important to know how God prospers men. There is how the world prospers men. Understand that the kind of resistance that an unbeliever faces is not the same kind that a believer faces. Because the devil does not stop you if you're going in the same direction with him. That's why you cannot just live your life by the standards and principles that an unbeliever lays bare and says, this is how I build wealth. You don't have to listen to all those church people. If you attempt to just listen to that alone, without understanding that just the fact that you're a believer doing the same thing, submitting your hearts to God's purposes, you are against what the devil is trying to build, because you have submitted your heart to build what God wants to do on earth. So I'm telling you that when it comes to how God prospers men, it begins first with your heart aligning with his kingdom. And it is revealed in Solomon how that when God came to him and said, what do you want? His prayer revealed alignment with the will and purposes of God. Give me wisdom to judge your people. What matters to God the most was what Solomon was asking for, because the people that Solomon was presiding over was God's covenant people, and inside those people the promise of salvation was hidden in a seed. So it matters to God that those people are not destroyed, so that the promise of salvation can mature and find expression. That's why everybody God lifted to positions of leadership understood that beyond the personal comfort they got from leadership, they had a superior responsibility to God's covenant people. So when Joseph got there and became a prime minister, what did he say to his brethren? God sent me here to preserve a posterity for you. In other words, I understand my place in God's agenda, that it's not just about my personal comfort and the wife that Pharaoh gave me and the children that I have, even though all of that will be there. But that's not why God is lifting me. So if your whole pursuit of wealth is that, you have already escaped God's wealth transfer agenda. So you see this all through, that there was something God was doing, and everybody he lifted to preserve what he was doing. Every other thing came as a benefit. That's the meaning of all these things shall be added. God would always raise someone who had a mind of ease, who is aligned with what God is doing. Those are usually the people that God raises. Go and check Gideon. When the angel came to Gideon and said, you mighty man of valor, the Lord is with you. Look at the thing Gideon was saying. If the Lord is with us. His response was, if the Lord is with us, because his thought was my people, the people of God, covenant people. It wasn't a me matter. So it wasn't all of us are suffering, all of us are in captivity. That was the case. They were in captivity from the hands of the Midianites. So you would think that what Gideon would want at that point was to japa, let me and my family find a way to escape. So the moment the angel came and said, the Lord is with you, they said, where is he? The nearest passport fast. He said, no. If the Lord is truly with us, he removed himself immediately from that equation and put God's covenant people there to show you why the angel found him in the first instance. He said, where are the miracles? Where are the signs? Where are the wonders that our fathers told us? Can that God not deliver again? And I can imagine the angel smiling. That's why I found you. That's why I found you. Not many people are thinking like this. Everybody's concerned about their own desire, about their own comfort, about their own escape. But here you are, also hiding but thinking kingdom. Esther said that I was put here for such a time as this. In other words, all the time I was listening to enjoy, and I had like 100 housemates cleaning my back. It wasn't for such a time as that. It was when deliverance of the Jews came that he recognizes why God put her there. So in as much as the comfort was there, it wasn't for such a time as that. It was a thing added. It was part of all these things that are added. So she knew that the Jews must not be erased. If Haman had successfully wiped off the Jews, salvation has ended. Do you understand what I'm saying? So even God had to put someone whose heart would beat for his kingdom as a queen. Look at it. Everyone God was raising, there was an aspect of kingdom in their heart. What God saw in Solomon was a heart for the kingdom, and that heart for the kingdom now made God give to Solomon wisdom. The conclusion of all I'm saying is that when you align your heart to God's purposes, then he supplies wisdom, and that wisdom he supplies is what brings wealth, is what brings honor, is what brings riches. So whenever God wants to launch a man into wealth, he orchestrates economic shifts that empower that man into wealth in alignment with his principles. Like I've told you, it's not just random. The transfer is not just spontaneous. There is wisdom. Wherever you see transfer happening, look for wisdom, look for knowledge, look for joy. Wealth transfer is not passive. It doesn't just happen. It comes through positioning. It comes through readiness to act when God moves, when God begins to shake the systems. And there must be believers who, like Mordecai and Esther, they are able to discern the times. They are able to stay faithful in service, remain unbending in righteousness, learn strategic wisdom that turns the heart of kings to their favor, orchestrating a transfer of resources. Let me show you a few things to see in the life of Mordecai and Esther that were operations of wisdom that they walked in. The first is that both Esther and Mordecai understood the wisdom of profitable alliances. In business and in the marketplace, this is what I call partnership capital. The wisdom to understand that you cannot rise alone. In other words, if you are Mordecai by the gate, you might have the skills, you might have the smartness, the resume, the track record, but if you want to get to the top and become master over the house of a man, you must align yourself with people who carry access, knowledge, and influence. Otherwise, just staying at the gate and praying whilst you are being faithful alone will not suffice. There must be Esthers you must partner with, because whom the king recognized was Esther. Mordecai was promoted by the recommendation of Esther, despite Mordecai was the brain behind the work. It is wisdom to understand that realizing that there are people you will need on your path to success and greatness does not in any way suggest that you are acting out of faith. So wisdom is not only knowing God, it is also stewarding relationships. Listen to me. Wealth flows through people. People sign contracts. People give referrals. People give recommendations. So a wise employee would build trust equity with his supervisors, with other employees, with managers, with bosses, because you have no idea where recommendations will come. Wealth transfer happens through networks. Listen, it is wisdom to know that God may not give you direct access to the king, but he can position you near someone who does. And you must understand how to furnish that relationship. That wisdom is something you must invest into. God has to give you, and you have to invest in it. Learn the wisdom of advantageous connections. Learn the wisdom of partnership capital, that I cannot rise alone. I need to invest in profitable relationships with people in my field of influence. The second thing I saw was that Mordecai understood the wisdom of information leverage, because when he discovered the plot against the king, he passed the information immediately that salvaged the kingdom, saved the king's life, solved a major problem for the king, and passed it through Esther. He used knowledge to strategically secure relevance. In the marketplace, you must understand that information is currency. You have to be the employee who sees the trends, who understands data, who spots risks by studying facts and communicate wisely so that you can become indispensable. A believer should not be far from knowledge. Go and get knowledge. Study why it has not been working. Understand what must now start working. What must you do? Input yourself in it. It is your field of influence. It will be irresponsible to not know. The third thing you'd see is that Mordecai understood the wisdom of visibility without compromise. That though he sat at the king's gate, he did not blend into the system by losing his integrity, by losing his identity, because he wants to get to the top. The top is where he's going, but he's starting his career at the gate. And at that gate, you would find lots of people with different agendas also at the gate. And at that gate, given the different types of people, categories of people, all having their own agendas, all not serving the God of Israel, yet he retained his sanity, retained his credibility, retained his conviction all through. If you find yourself at the gate, you must be faithful at the gate. Don't become too engrossed with where it is God is taking you to that you lose sight of faithfulness because of where you are right now. Esther understood the wisdom of preparation before opportunity arises. Before approaching the king, for instance, she spent days in prayers, days in fasting. Do you know that even before she was chosen as a queen, she endured months of grooming and preparation, and she gave herself to that training because she understood that you not just appear at the gate of destiny and demand substance from destiny without having prepared for it. She understood timing. She understood excellence in presentation. Many believers in the marketplace want sudden elevation but refuse grooming, refuse to improve their skills, refuse to improve their communication, refuse to improve on their networking skills, on their dressing, on their packaging, on different things. And so they appear so unprepared when destiny appears that when they start negotiating, they can lose millions of money that would have been theirs because he cannot negotiate, because he cannot speak well. He cannot sell his value in a way that it convinces someone else that they should pay that amount of money for that value. His heart is weak. He has not built capacity whilst he's at the gate. And he wants success. And he wants all these things. But having given himself to any form of preparation, it was Esther's readiness that made her irresistible when her Kairos moment came. Time spent preparing is never a waste. Haman's estate, Haman's influence, Haman's authority flowed into Mordecai's hands. But that transfer was not random. It was the harvest of years of visibility, years of integrity, years of information stewardship, years of preparation, years of alliances, building relationships, consistency. This is the wisdom that you see governing wealth transfer. The question is, are you you rightly positioned? And in doing so, there are levels of wisdom that I want to show you that a man must have that positions him for wealth transfer. The first is the wisdom for creative ideas. That when God wants to introduce you into wealth transfer and He gives you wisdom, that wisdom manifests as creative ideas that others cannot see. It's not just that you do what others are doing, whether or not you can do it. God is the one that gives it. God opens your eyes to see a problem and says, you solve this. Go and observe through scriptures. This is how it happens. When God wants to raise you as a Moses to deliver a generation, it does not mean that you are a deliverance minister. It could mean that there's an idea that unlocks possibilities to a generation that otherwise we would not have known, and life would have been difficult because nobody would have thought that they even wanted freedom from it. But God opens your eyes and you see that as a problem and you create a solution that everybody now suddenly needs. But you know what people do? We just look, what is everybody doing? And then we jump at it. That's not how wealth transfer works. God gives wisdom. Your eyes just opens. This is a problem I'm seeing in an area. It might be a problem Nigeria has, Africa has. It might even be a problem in your immediate environment. It might even be a problem you have. And then God opens your eyes to show you how you would solve it. God gives wisdom. Contend for wisdom. You will see it. It will stand you out.